Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. So I'm going to be briefly addressing, or at least as brief as I can be, briefly addressing the drama surrounding Troy Leavitt. Now, Troy Leavitt is a video game developer. He has a YouTube channel that's been largely inactive for about 2 years now. And now he's sort of back in the public eye in a very negative way, right? People such as Anita Sarkeesian here are trying to get him canceled because of his channel and because of the fact that he's working on a Harry Potter related game, right? Hogwarts Legacy. This is an article that's been on Kotaku. Many people have covered it, and so naturally, I will be covering it as well. Now, full disclosure, I've been a subscriber to Troy's YouTube channel for a while. I liked his content, especially criticizing Anita, which, believe me, I will be getting to. Right, so I certainly am not a neutral or a unbiased party in this, so I feel that it's important to make that clear. I am on his side, and I will explain why. But again, I have my biases. I have a very positive bias toward him, and as you probably are aware by this point, I have a very negative bias toward Anita. Right? Biases are not necessarily wrong, but at the same time, they do skew your judgment, they skew your viewpoint in certain ways, right? So I am by no means in the middle in this, right? So just wanted to make that clear. Troy Leavitt did nothing wrong. Let's get that out there. Troy Leavitt did nothing wrong. All he did was express his opinions on various things in video games, in particular Anita Sarkeesian several years ago. And again, his channel hasn't even been active in 2 years. But I do want to thank Kotaku for one thing. They brought him back up, so now, given that I now have a Twitter account, I decided to subscribe to his Twitter. So thanks, Kotaku. You played yourselves, but thanks anyway. So I want to give a shout out to Brad Glasgow here. Says that he's an award-winning, data-driven journalist and peer-reviewed author, triathlete, video game culture researcher. Because this is his image, obviously, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Again, I don't go searching these things out; they end up in my feed. So I saw this in my feed, so I want to give credit to him. So what I'm gonna do first is read what Anita wrote and analyze it as I do, and then I will go into what Kotaku wrote about Mr. Leavitt and give my opinion on that. So here's what Miss Anita Sarkeesian, right, the biggest grifter the gaming industry has ever had the misfortune of running into. The same woman who blocked me, right? She's supposed to be this strong, opinionated woman, but she blocked me when I said something negative about her. And as we saw recently with the video I did, which, keep in mind, is actually of the videos that I've made since I have come back to YouTube, the video that I did on Anita, which is damn near 40 minutes long. It's like 30 minutes. It's like 36 minutes. I'm looking at my phone at the moment. Come on, phone. Right, so the video I did about Anita, right, Anita Sarkeesian is a coward, which now the video is about a week old now, right? It's a 36-minute video, 35 minutes, 58 seconds. It's 36 minutes of me ranting, right? And that video has 824 views. Now, that may not sound like much, and I understand in the bigger scheme of YouTube, it's nothing. But you have to keep in mind that the bulk of my videos don't even get 100 views. I'm a very small channel, right? I don't get a lot of views. So I'm because of her, right? I am over 800 and cresting toward 1,000. So in a very odd way, Anita has benefited me. In fact, my subscriber count is at 496 at present. Before I left YouTube, it was at 504, and then, in my opinion, YouTube took more or less, they claim that they're moving bots. Yeah, sure. Or that people unsubscribed. Possible, but yeah, sure. I think that they were punishing me for what I had tweeted at them and the videos I had made criticizing them and their unjust actions toward me. But that's another story for a different day. But I am now almost back up to the 500 that I originally had when I left back in November, right? And I have no doubt that it's in large part to the video that I did about Anita, because that's the one that's getting the most views. So to everybody who has found their way back to me or is new, welcome. Hope you enjoy the content. So let's break this down, right? Let me read what she said and then break it down as only I can. So Anita, right? Saint Anita, Beata Anita, writes, I'm happy to say that, even though I disclosed, she's quoting him, right? Because there's a quote in the article where he talks about how he disclosed his channel to Warner Brothers when he got hired back in 2018, I think. So she's sort of quoting him on that, right? So, quotes, I'm happy to say that even though I disclosed my hateful, misogynist, and regressive YouTube channel to Warner Brothers Games, WB Games, it didn't appear to be an issue for them, and I get to continue being a successful game designer on a major project with no consequences. This, as we know, is Anita being salty. Because here's the thing about Troy's channel. Kind of like with me, the criticism he had toward her is what got him the most views, right? So he has videos going back 4 years. So that would be about 2016, 2017, right? And the largest viewed video that he has on his channel, which keep in mind again, is hasn't been there's been no new content in 2 years, right? So 4 years ago, he made a video called Anita's Pinhole. A veteran game developer responds to feminist frequency. Finally, he got 649,000 views on that one, right? The next one is Problematic, a game developer responds to feminist frequency, part 2. 151,000 views. Again, that was 4 years ago. Another one, Games Lead the Way. A game developer responds to feminist frequency, part 3. That one got 72,000 views, right? And then there's a few more involving her. There's Anita's Appropriation, right? That's the name of the video, right? 112,000 views. A game developer's open letter to Anita Sarkeesian. 53,000 views, right? So obviously, he's been able to sort of make his bones on her. Now, to be fair to Troy, there's a lot more than just, Anita feminist frequency tropes v women videos on his channel. He talks about atheism, he talks about religion, right? He talks about a great many things, but he's also, yes, he's pro gamer, right? Games Lead the Way is the name of one of his videos. Another one is Video Games, the Ultimate Art Form, right? And that was 3 years ago. There's another one, Dude is Disposable, Ideological Reciprocity in Video Game Criticism. I remember that one. I thought he made some really good points about how men are, especially in media, are treated, as the meat sack that can be sacrificed to, save the beautiful princess and all that. Right, then he has another one, right? The Pretty Polly's, the myth of the male gaze in video games. And again, right, he's pretty much, covering, or was covering, the same things that, like, Leanna Kay and other people, like myself, for example, cover, right? But he made his bones, got the most views on his videos off of her name. So naturally, she's going to be upset. Let me share with you another reason she's going to be upset. We all know that she stuck her foot in it, and then some about a week ago when she tried to shade Leanna Kay. Well, guess what Troy did? Guess what Troy did several years ago? He did a series of videos with Leanna Kersner 3 years ago, interviewing Leanna Kersner, Part 1, Feminism in Video Games. Right? Feminism in Video Games, Part 2. Right? It goes up to like Part 6. Right? And these are long form videos, like 30 minutes plus. Some of them are close to an hour. I remember watching those videos and those interviews where they happen. I think you can find the videos both on Leanna's channel and on his channel. And I found them very informative. I think this was around the time Leanna was trying to do something where it was kind of like she would invite people on to like speak and like say their piece, right? I forget what there was a name for it. Um, some sort of gamer related name for it. I forget exactly, but it was a short-lived series. I think she even interviewed like that Google guy who got in trouble a few years ago because he basically wrote like it wasn't quite a manifesto, right? But he wrote this like long response to Google about how, in his opinion, some of their trainings, their like sensitivity trainings and whatnot, were a bit sexist and anti-man, and then they fired him, and then he sued, right? That guy. I forget exactly what it was called, unfortunately, but I remember that. I remember that. And again, I think I am of the opinion, right? Again, full disclosure, I am fully on Troy's side. I think that Troy made, very good, informative opinion pieces from his very unique perspective of being a game developer, right? He has been in video games since the 1990s. Man worked on Jet Moto. It's like you don't get more peak mid 90s PlayStation or PSX, right? PS1 than Jet flipping Moto. It's crazy. He has a long history in this. And he, given that knowledge, given that history, critiqued Anita. As many people have. As Leanna did, as Apaben did. He did a lot of videos on her back then. As I have made videos about her, now I don't make a lot of videos about her because I don't like her and I'm not that type of person to like hate watch others and all that just for content. But I've made videos about her, as we've obviously seen. Right, so I can understand why Anita's upset here. A man who made his name a few years ago, made his bones off of pointing out um, the problematic elements, let's say, in her analysis, and someone who has done video content with Leanna, who would be, in this case, sort of Anita's, I guess, ideological opposite or ideological enemy. Right, so I am not surprised at all that she's pissed off about this. I'm very glad, actually, she's pissed off about this. Stay mad, honey. Stay mad. Now, what I want to address is now the Kotaku article. I want to address the... One second. RJ's always walking back and forth. If you walk back and forth again, Ken, I'm going to pull you up in front of this camera and give the fans some very wholesome fan service. I'm going to use you to promote myself. Now you hide. Now you hide. So Kotaku, which keep in mind, let me just, you can't see unfortunately, but I will put it in the links in the description, but keep in mind, Kotaku is part of a larger, I guess, collection of websites that includes the AV Club, Deadspin, Gizmodo, Jalopnik, I don't know, Bell, right? The same people who don't even know who the hell Chun-Li is or, which video game she comes from. The same people who, or at least the same writer, right? Shannon Melero, or whatever the heck her name was, who literally, in my opinion at least, literally reduced Chun-Li down to Asian woman in blue costume. Most likely saw Princess Kitana and thought, hey, Asian woman in blue costume. This must be the same person. Wait, why wasn't Chun-Li in the Mortal Kombat trailer? Same, same group of people, right? You know, people will judge you by the company that you keep, and this is the company that Kotaku keeps. I'm just saying. But it says here in this article, right? Hogwarts legacy lead designer used to run anti-social justice YouTube channel. If that's what you want to call it. I didn't necessarily see it as anti-SJW, but I guess in this case, it's one of those things where SJW stuff is so radicalized, and I speak as somebody who actually, at the height of the culture war, did consider herself an anti-SJW. I eventually stopped with the labels and, like, you know, which side am I on, because in my experience I found that the antis, many of them ultimately ended up being SJW in their own right, but just on the opposite side, right? For example, those are the same people that, you know, preach Ben Shapiro's, you know, facts don't care about your feelings. And with all due respect to Ben, especially given that he's an attorney, he should know better than anybody else that while the facts may exist independent of your personal feelings, your feelings also help you interpret and understand facts, right? And those were the same people preaching that type of message and being offensive for the sake of being offensive. And, you know, they were claiming that they were being the adults in the room, but they were acting just as mean and callous and extremist, as the SJWs were. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm not anti. I'm not, obviously I'm not an SJW, right? But that was just my brief experience with it, right? So I personally don't view Troy's channel as anti-social justice. He was simply pro-gamer, right? I guess you could say pro-gamer gate, right? And he made very interesting, informative thought pieces, you know, from his perspective as a game developer, right? There's even one video that he did. Let me try to find it, where it says business realities versus social justice desires in video games, right? So there's something that is not often considered, right, from on either side, right? Whether you're a pro gamer or not, SJW or not, right? Something that is not often considered is the business realities. But he, being a game developer, being in the trenches, is able to bring that perspective. So I personally never thought of him as an anti-SJW, personally. And he's certainly not anti-feminist as they claim in the article, because again, he did videos with Liana Kurzner, right? Critiquing a grifter like Anita Sarkeesian, who happens to describe herself as a feminist, does not mean that you are anti-feminist. It means that you are criticizing a grifter. And I speak as somebody who is not a feminist, right? And again, I have no issue with Liana or others being feminists. Part of the reason I was subscribed to Liana for so long was because she was a feminist and I am not, and I'd like to learn from other people's viewpoints, even if I personally don't share them. But critiquing Anita Sarkeesian is not proof of anti-feminism. It's proof of good sense. It's a public work. The man should be praised for what he did. He shouldn't be criticized. But anyway, here's what the Kotaku article says, right? It says that Troy Leavitt is a lead designer at Warner Brothers development studio Avalanche Software. Ah, at Avalanche Software, currently working on the controversial Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter is not controversial, at least not controversial in the traditional sense, right? Unless you are, say, you know, a religious person and you're bothered by the occult elements, right? But by and large, Harry Potter itself is not um, controversial. What's controversial are J.K. Rowling's, what some would say, are anti-trans comments. Now, I personally, I will admit, I don't know the whole situation with her, so I am working from a deficit in a sense when it comes to her situation, but from what I know of it, pointing out that there are distinct differences between cis women, right? Women who were born female and have been female all their lives, and trans women. I don't see where that's being anti-trans or anti-woman. Isn't that acknowledging the uniqueness of the trans woman and the trans female experience? They are different. That's just the objective reality of it. I don't see where acknowledging that um, is erasure or anything like that, right? Trans women and women may are both women, but we're not the same. We're not the same type of woman. We are two different types of women. I don't know how else to put it. With all due respect to people in the trans community, yeah, I'm not trying to be rude, but I've never been a believer in this, trans women are women, because what they usually mean by that is trans women are exactly the same as cisgendered women in every single way, and that is not true from an objective standpoint. Otherwise, the prefix of trans, right, from the word transition, which means to move from one to the other, would not be there in front of the word women or female. Right, so that's pretty much what I know of J.K. Rowling's situation. And again, with all due respect to the trans community, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And if you're trans, fine. To me, a person's gender identity or expression or sexuality is the most boring thing about them. Unless we're going to be physically intimate, I don't much care. But if we're going to talk about the controversy, surrounding J.K. Rowling, that's mainly it, right? That and how she keeps retconning her own work on Twitter, right? Whenever people complain. And again, when it comes to the trans issue, isn't it actually affirming or showing respect to acknowledge that yes, there is something different and distinct about trans women? I don't know. That's just the way I view it. Please let me know, especially if you are trans or you know someone who is trans or a trans woman in the comments. Let me know how you view that. Because again, I am sincerely not trying to be rude or disrespectful or anything. I'm just trying to share my opinion, and again, it's to me it's the realities of the situation. There's a big difference between a cis woman like myself. I may have a unisex name, but I am a cis woman, and a trans woman. That's just how it is. Right? But Harry Potter in and of itself is not controversial. Right? People make it controversial because of their, in my opinion, largely misplaced anger at J.K. Rowling. But anyway, it says that this information was first provided by Did You Know Gaming contributor Liam Robertson. Right? And then it says that it shows a screenshot of Leavitt's YouTube channel with titles such as The Injustice of Social Justice. Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Social justice is injustice because it's not actually pursuing justice, and it's not actually for the benefit of society. The whole point of the term social justice warrior (SJW) is that it's a sarcastic remark. It's an insult. It's not something you should be, because SJWs, if we see their impact all the time, they're not pro society. They want to put us all in boxes and have us hate each other and reintroduce things like segregation, right? Toxic ideas and ideologies that we spent decades tearing down as a society, right? They are now trying to build back up. So they're not for society. As I said, they're certainly not for justice. Look at the Gina Carano situation. That's one of many. And they're not warriors. Believe me, I have literal books on warrior culture and the warrior mindset. Once you start reading those and you realize that warriors are about justice and they're about helping people and they're about being of service to others and actually quite giving, right? Giving of themselves. Maybe they are typically giving of themselves in a very martial way, right? But they are people who want to help, typically, right? And they sacrifice. That's not what SJWs do. They tend to be incredibly selfish, generally speaking. Right, so yes, the whole point of the term SJW is that it's a sarcastic term. It is not something you want to be. It should be something that you try with all your might to not be. Again, don't be Demona, be Angela, right? And then it says another video of his, which is in praise of cultural appropriation. I remember that video. What he was talking about is basically how cultures blend and how they, how we interact and interchange through our cultures, and we take elements of our cultures from each other, right? So it was actually, yes, it wasn't about being disrespectful as people tend to associate the term cultural appropriation. Right? It was about basically how, as people interact, right, we bring elements of our culture with us, and those elements of our culture blend into the main culture, right, and further expand and grow that culture. I can tell you this is true. I live in New York City. It's an incredibly multicultural city. On top of that, I live in the borough of Queens. It's the most multicultural um, borough in the city. I can literally hop on the 7, ride it to the end of the line, and end up in Little Korea, right, or Chinatown or whatever you want to call it, right? Flushing, Queens, right? We got more Chinese people in Flushing, Queens than we do in Chinatown, but everybody remembers Chinatown because it's in Manhattan, and it gets put in all the movies. But really, Flushing, Queens, Chinatown, Koreatown, a little bit of Japantown. You want a taste of Asia? Hop on the 7 and take your butt to Flushing, to Main Street. So yeah, I can't exactly get mad about in praise of cultural appropriation when I practically live in it, right? And are thought crimes becoming real? Yes, they are. Are you not watching Kotaku? Says the latter a reference being a reference to the sci-fi novel 1984 by George Orwell, right? And then talks about right-wing commentators. Not every person who is of these opinions is right-wing. Jesus Christ. Kotaku. There we go. Believe it or not, right? Right-wing commentator, right? Stop with the buzzwords and stop with the whole boogeyman effect, please. Kotaku is just insulting. Right, and they say that they use the book's authoritarian Big Brother government as a comparison point for their criticism, likening the fictional surveillance state to real-world equality movements. What real-world equality movement? I'm not seeing real-world equality movements. I'm seeing real-world movements to cancel people for their opinions. Again, Gina Carano. Again, Troy. Hell, the president of the United States, or rather the former president, I should say, of the United States himself, doesn't have a social media presence anymore. You're telling me that cancel culture doesn't exist? You're lying to me. Right? And then it talks about Levitt's other videos are about John Lasseter. I don't know what the hell's going on with John Lasseter. And Nolan Bushnell, the Atari co-founder. Yeah, the whole thing about Bushnell, if I remember correctly, is that some people tried to cancel him or get him in trouble. There was some award he was supposed to get, and they took it back because some people found out that there was like a sex, drugs, and rock and roll work environment at Atari back in the 70s. Right now, whatever your feelings about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, are you really surprised that an up-and-coming company had a sex, drugs, and rock and roll culture in the 1970s before they went corporate and had to rein it all in? Does that really surprise you? Literally punishing him for what, like decades ago. In fact, there were several women, and again, Leanna Kay did a video about it. There were several women who were working there at the time, who gave statements saying, "Hey, I enjoyed my time there. It was my first big break in this, that, and the other." But of course, social justice types don't care. All they care about is the fact that, oh no, you did something or you said something at some point in your life that they disagree with, so now you must be canceled. Or in the case of Nolan Brucknell, you must have this award taken from you. Right? Says in some of his videos, he's expressed support for Gamergate, a movement that fostered harassment against women. No, it didn't. People criticizing Anita is not harassment of women. It is not the same. People criticizing Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn is not harassment of women. Can we stop? And they acknowledge that he criticized Anita's tropes versus women as an uninformed fringe position. He's not wrong, Kotaku. He's not wrong. So what are you mad about? Right, so it says that he discussed his opinions on Gamergate in depth during a 2017 interview, saying Gamergate, while painful at times, on the whole proved to be a good thing. Now, I would respectfully disagree with him there, right? I do think that, like a lot of things, especially involving Anita, Gamergate had good intentions, but ultimately lost its way because it lost the plot and it got used by bad actors like Anita to create, as we heard in the article, this um, false harassment narrative, right? That sadly, uh, despite Gamergate being dead for the past few years now, this idea of gamers being, in particular male gamers, being anti-female, still persist. Here's the thing. You know how I mentioned it in my video ranting about Demona, right? The voice actress, I should say, for Demona from Gargoyles and her completely disgusting, insensitive tweets about Texas and their issues right now. Here's the thing. I mentioned Superstorm Sandy in that video, right? And I mentioned how even though the storm was almost 10 years ago now, we're still dealing with the fallout. Anita is very similar in that regard. She is not um, she doesn't have the fame or the clout that she used to have. She doesn't have the influence that she once had. As we saw, she pretty much got laughed off the internet back in November when she complained about Mandalorian boob armor, right? But the fact of the matter is that even though she is not the influence that she once was, right? I remember feminist frequency essentially went broke a few years ago, right? Even if she doesn't have the power that she used to have currently, right? Her influence, right, remains, and we are dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Anita. And part of that aftermath is this lingering, enduring falsehood that male gamers on the whole are anti-women and that Gamergate was a harassment campaign against women. It wasn't. Again, I think that it lost the plot. It got used and in many ways turned against itself. But it was never about harassment against women. Do you really think women would have come up with the hashtag not your shield if it had been about harassment against women? So it says here is Leavitt didn't respond to Kotaku's multiple requests for comment in time for publication. And I hope he never does. I don't think he's a dumb man. There's nothing for him to talk about. Why in the world should he respond to Kotaku just to have them, spin his words and lie about him? You can already tell from this article that they have a very negative opinion of him. So yeah, I hope he doesn't respond. He doesn't have to. And then it talks about his history, talking about how he got a start in 1996's Twisted Metal 2 and Jet Moto 2, and he worked for a long time at Disney, right? It says here that he published his first video on his YouTube channel back in September of 2016. Right, so this was years ago now. And then his last upload was in May of 2018. So it's literally been years since he first uploaded and years since he last uploaded. But now suddenly his content is an issue. Right? So let's see here. So he says in one video, in one video he claims that he made his employers at Warner Brothers aware of the channel after being hired at Avalanche Software in February of 2018, and they didn't seem worried about the content. So his statement is, some of you have expressed that due to my commentary on some game industry controversies and my sympathies for the Gamergate movement, that I might have a difficult time should I ever want to return to the professional game development. I'm happy to say that even though I disclosed my YouTube channel to WB Games, it didn't appear to be an issue for them. Not that they endorse anything I've said, of course, but at least they seem more concerned with making good games than pushing some kind of a social justice agenda, so there is hope. Warner Brothers declined to comment when contacted by Kotaku for a statement on Leavitt's views and involvement with Hogwarts Legacy. So he basically found an employer that understands that he's entitled to his personal opinions about things, and that so long as those opinions don't impact his work, it's not a problem. Good. At least someone at Warner Brothers has a brain and understands that people have the right to self-expression, right? His views on Anita